What is going on, entrepreneurs and hustlers? Chaz, we are live.
What is up, everybody? You are watching the Non-Corporate Network. You are tuned into Entreprenews, a show where Dustin and I debate the top 6 trending stories in small business for 3 minutes each. We each give our takes. I give the better take, and then you move on with the rest of your morning until a couple days later, and then we come back and do it all over again. Did I summarize that pretty well, Dustin?
Absolutely, with the one little fake news whenever it comes to the winning every time. That's
Oh,
definitely not the trend.
okay. Thought I was gonna get away with it that time. Well, thank you guys for being with us. It is a beautiful Monday morning. Dustin, do you want to tell them a little bit about what the non-corporate network is before we dive in?
Yep, non-corporate network. So our goal and vision is to create a channel that has news, entrepreneur, business-related content that lives under there. We have Entreprenews that lives under there. Here pretty soon we'll be bringing on other TV shows that delve into financials, marketing, everything else that is for entrepreneurs. So goal is to just create something that helps spread education and pass knowledge on and just make a better business community. Did I
By
summarize that well?
entrepreneurs. Yeah, that was good. By
Sweet.
entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs. Yeah, that is the mission. And we know that during a time when fake news is kind of running rampant, we are not puppets to a corporation. We're here with our own unique takes. And, I think that that's kind of what people are looking for nowadays is something that they can trust a little bit more than your big giant corporate news entities. So the purpose of this show is that, yeah, we kind of took CNBC and we took ESPN and we merged them together to bring you guys something fun to watch and good way to bring you up to speed on the craziness that's happening in the world of small business. But without further ado, I'm ready to dive into this first story if you are,
Yep.
Dustin.
Let's go ahead and dive right in, man.
Okay. So we talked about this last week. Companies continuing to boycott Facebook advertising because of the fact that it currently has policies that help to spread hate speech. And that's a big allegation coming from anybody to any company. It's hard to ignore when we saw last week Coca-Cola. Unilever pulled their budgets. Starbucks, another huge company that seems to kind of be on the fence, flip-flopping every 5 minutes. But, they also have now pulled their ad budgets. This is billions of dollars, Dustin, in terms of pulled ad spend. What are your thoughts here? Do you think that this is going to take away from the use of social media, or is this specifically just the advertising side of it?
Well, I think first and foremost, keep those brands coming down because the CPMs will keep coming down and it's just cheaper to reach your audience. So I am pumped for it. But it's interesting. With less advertising happening, there might be less ads, so the consumer might like it a bit more. Seeing more original content, less advertising going on. So I don't know if it'll help or hurt the end consumer. One thing that is interesting though is people might start seeing these headlines and go, you know what, I don't stand for it either. I'm going to stop going on Facebook. And so it could cause others to stop using the social platform. One thing that is really interesting as well is last week we noted that Mark Zuckerberg was not going to change policy because of how decisions are impacting revenue. Basically, he's holding his ground, even though these advertisers are pulling out of the ads part of it. But he recently came out and said that they're looking at policies, they're looking at their procedures, and maybe making some updates. So I think the negatively impacted revenue is starting to get in his mind and starting to make some changes.
Oh, yeah.
But what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm happy that businesses are doing something to affect change, although it doesn't at a government level. I think that Facebook is a novelty in terms of the place where you should be boycotting compared to what's happening with the government right now and the reform that needs to happen there. But nonetheless, we're seeing some changes, and obviously these big brands are realizing that they got to stand for something. And so, I agree that there is a form of hate that's being propagated on Facebook, and they need to adjust those policies. I think all too often they're kind of relying on AI to do the job that you need a human to be monitoring. AI can be great, but you have to use a person in that process, or it's not going to do justice, right? We're just not that far along into AI to be able to solely rely on AI to be monitoring our content and deciding what people need to see or not see. So, yeah, it's interesting though.
Yeah.
They're not pulling budgets on YouTube, they said. It's
I
just
love it.
Facebook. So.
Redistribute those budgets and see how Google and programmatic TV and all those other channels work. I think everyone thinks social is the holy grail. So let's redistribute those budgets, see some success in other
Yep.
channels, and come out omni-channel.
Yeah, no, I think it'll be a change that needs to be made. Getting into our next story here, Amazon's task force for they're called the Counterfeit Crimes Unit.
Hmm.
Essentially, they've been getting some backlash from buyers that some of the products that they're buying on Amazon are actually counterfeits or fakes of the real product. One example was a Batman doll that was being distributed that was supposed to be a Mattel brand toy. Turns out it was a fake. We've seen the lead paint stories and everything else. And so there's a lot of risks here. One thing that is interesting to hone in on is that Birkenstock got a lot of blowback because there were fake Birkenstocks being sent around. A lot of college kids chilling in the quad wearing these. But the big thing here was that the people that were buying them were coming back to Birkenstocks, and they were upset at Birkenstocks, not upset at the counterfeit necessarily. And so, do businesses have a responsibility here? Is a precedent being set that it is a business's responsibility to make sure that there's no fakes of their product out there?
See, it's tough. And I mean, this is partly because Amazon is so new in the technology space. I mean, to me, I don't think, the company's going to do all they can to help with copyright infringement and all that other type of stuff. But whenever you have a platform that's openly allowing third parties to sell whatever they want without, going through some type of process to determine whether it's fake or not, it's almost like Amazon should be held liable, where maybe they just need to update their process and check out some of these third-party sellers a little bit more, maybe make it a little bit higher barrier to entry. But at the end of the day, it's tough whether it's the business or Amazon, because I mean, Amazon allowed for a platform to open up and sell these fake things, and these
Right.
third parties are getting a lot better. It used to be you could easily identify them. They've increased the prices to where it's just cheap enough to where it looks very attractive, but it's a little
Right.
bit more expensive to make you think it's not fake. And so as that trends upward, there's gonna be more companies that don't even want to go on Amazon. So I think it's in Amazon's best interest to kind of try and regulate and figure out a better
Yeah.
process, because they'll be negatively impacted in the long run.
Right. Yeah. Wall Street Journal came out and said they found that thousands of banned or unsafe products have been selling on the site. Thousands. Some, like knockoff car seats, are especially dangerous. Over 54% of Amazon's product flow is actually from third-party sellers. So it kind of reminds me of Facebook, where they're saying, "Hey, we're a platform when it's good for us, and
Mm-hmm.
we're a publisher when it's good for us." Amazon has a responsibility, I believe, to say, if anything's on our platform, it's not just a marketplace anymore, especially with how many private label things that they're creating. If consumers are coming to Amazon blindly, just trusting that the products are going to be, the highest quality and not knockoffs, then we have to understand that, they have a responsibility to monitor that and mitigate any kind of risk.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, like you said, are you a publisher, are you a platform? I think as more of this happens, we'll just have to define the differences between the two and who's liable, and just more
Yep.
ongoing conversations.
Well, Walmart could have a unique point of difference here, considering most of their products are from their own supply chain. They have better kind of ways to monitor this, so it could be a big point of difference for them. We'll see if they play off of that with their marketing.
Yep.
Into our next story, Apple, AT&T, Jack Daniels. The Fed issues details on buy bonds. So the Federal Reserve has released a list of roughly 750 companies, including Apple, Walmart, ExxonMobil, whose corporate bonds it will purchase in the coming months in an effort to keep borrowing costs low and smooth the flow of credit. Dustin, this is a big story. I don't think that people are really realizing it. The last thing I'll mention before I hand it off to you here is that the Fed announced in March that it would, for the first time in its history, Again, the first time in the Fed's history, purchased corporate bonds as the intensifying viral outbreak caused panic investors to dump most types of securities in a rush to hold cash. That pushed up an interest rate and made it nearly impossible for companies to borrow money. Dustin, this is a big deal, and it seems to kind of be getting swept under the rug as the government would like. What are your thoughts here? Is this something that is going to impact small businesses? Is this something that is going to impact the larger businesses? Is this going to impact consumers? What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things stick out. I mean, I'm no expert when it comes to bond buying or the stock market or anything, but I mean, the thing that sticks out is if this is the first time they're doing it. I mean, we've brought it up on the show before. I mean, there's a long history of the government just doing things and then figuring out the rules weeks, months down the road, and I mean, typically anything that they put their hands on either goes bankrupt or just doesn't work right. I mean, they're just not a private company, and profitability isn't, top of mind. And so I worry that this is the first time they're doing something and there's going to be huge long-term implications down the road. Another thing that sticks out is, I mean, Apple is on this. They're known to be just sitting on hordes of cash. I mean, hundreds of billions of dollars in cash. So what debt do they have that the government is buying that debt, which ultimately the taxpayers are buying? So it's like, why are we as taxpayers buying Apple's debt to keep interest rates down whenever they're sitting on a ton of cash? I mean, ultimately, I see that we need to keep interest rates down because, I mean, we've been given trillions of dollars in stimulus, but, with the federal deficit being so high, if interest rate goes up, what we owe on that interest just keeps going up. So it's almost like we're borrowing to dig a bigger hole to keep down what we owe, and it could be scary in the long term. I mean, what are your thoughts?
It's the equivalent of this is the equivalent of pulling the goalie and trying to win the game or take it to overtime. It's a scary thing to see. They're talking about, the Fed said that it intended to purchase up to $750 billion of corporate debt. So far they've purchased 429 million. So they're not very far into that 750 billion point. So we'll see if they actually go through with it. But yeah, this is a big deal. And I think that, if this proves to be an issue, kind of like the triple P was an issue, then there's no more lines of defense. This is the reserve. This is that guy that you're pulling in the 92nd minute to win the game. It's like, this is big, so I think it's, hopefully it'll pan out for us, Cotton. But I don't know, man. It's scary.
Yep. On to our next story. So Google is rolling out, they're giving free advertising credits to people that are actively updating and optimizing their Google My Business. This includes promoted pins on Google Maps, suggested listings on Google Maps as well. So really they're positioning it as helping during the coronavirus, more of the local awareness and presence. As more people are optimizing their listing, Google's going to push it more as companies are reopening. I think it's great. I mean, there's a lot that doesn't go on with Google My Business and the Maps listing. It's kind of an afterthought when it comes to business owners, but it is such a huge tool for local SEO, for local marketing. And we just discussed last week that Google has seen a decline in their search and marketing revenue. So, I mean, what are your thoughts? Is this more of a PR thing to get people to use it and then they can monetize it, or what are your thoughts?
There's blood in the water, Dustin. There's blood in the water. Zuckerberg, you better be freaking out, man. I'm telling you, these same people that are buying ads on Facebook, these local business owners trying to build brand equity, who knows what's going to happen? They've got YouTube over there. They got search engine optimization over there at Google. They've got PPC, and now they're dropping in another one with Google My Business. We saw that how this worked with companies like Waze that were able, and Weed Maps is another one that I know we've cited in the past, that are creatively using these pins. And really, I mean, I think it's the first line, when people are driving around looking for a place to go and you're suggesting something, or, hey, you want to go pick up food, add this to your route. It's only going to take you 2 minutes longer to get home. Like, I think that this is where people are making those snap judgments. This is the candy bars at the at the cash
Hmm.
register. I think that it's going to be a risk for Facebook because it's the same clientele, and if they're getting free ads right now, I think it's a genius beta test to get some demand created. I mean, they've got the supply of people using Google My Business or using Google Maps. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, I mean it's they haven't pushed the actual local listings a ton when it comes to ads. I mean, you can add your Google My Business listing as a location extension in Google Ads. I mean, but they don't have a product around it that says I want to push my listing this much more. They're getting more and more into it, and so I think this could be a huge new white space for them, especially as Facebook is getting a ton of flack. But I mean, to your
Yeah,
point, it's so many people are used to using it just to get directions or whatever it may be that as they're
yeah.
collecting more data, your location data, what you're searching, they might have
You
some
retarget them.
recommended spots that you can stop by. I think there's a ton of white space. One just for the consumers, but for also Google to come out with a whole new ad product.
Yeah. Imagine at the grocery store, you're thinking about buying those little Debbie's and then they're sitting at the cash register right when you go to check out. It's the same thing, man. If they can retarget your ad that you saw to now the map when you're driving by the place, I think that that's just another layer of convenience. But we'll see how that works out for us.
Exactly. So on to our next story. So American Airlines is the first airline to come out and say we are not maxing capacity. We're not putting limits. Basically, they're not putting limits on anything. They are booking flights to max capacity. This all comes as, let me pull it up. Delta Airlines they're only booking 60%. Southwest is they're not allowing the middle bookings. JetBlue is only allowed 67% max capacity through the end of July. So they seem to be the one that's coming out of the gate, allowing open air travel. Me personally, I think do it. If the demand is there and people are willing to travel, I really don't think blocking out the middle seat is really going to prevent the spread of this virus. I think, at the end of the day, it was something like hundreds of millions of dollars is what that one middle seat equates to across the airlines. And airlines are asking the federal government for billions in bailout. So it's like it's tough because you got health, but then you have financial, and it's like, we only have so much money, and if we keep going to the government to keep bailing out, we'll end up defaulting, and there'll be a lot of bigger implications there. But I mean, what are your thoughts on them,
Yep.
coming out the gate swinging like this?
It's a positioning conversation, and they're having to choose a side between the notoriously consumer-friendly companies like Southwest and Delta, and it's like, do you want to be on this side of the fence, or do you want to hang out with Spirit Airlines and Frontier? And they've made a very decisive decision to go. We're going to allow people to be on. We're going to do the same policies as Spirit. So to me, if I'm the CEO, I don't want to be affiliated with that company. They are notoriously a terrible, terrible airline. And so, I think that looking at this, it's a more of a positioning conversation than anything. But my personal thing is that, if you're going to say that you're coming out and oh, we're making people wear masks and we're going to clean the planes better, and that's what's going to save us, it's like, I truly think that it's going to take a little bit more. And so, yeah, I think that erring on the side of caution here is probably going to pay off for companies like Delta, Southwest, JetBlue. But, it'll be interesting to see. If you said if the demand's there, I'm all for us getting back to normalcy. And so if this can kind of push the needle forward, then I guess it can't be all bad.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, it's all about how you position it. I mean, they can come out and just say, "Hey, we're lacking in revenue. We're burning through millions a day. We just need the money." I mean,
Because if
that's
that's
one
why you
thing,
come
but
back, that's not a good look.
exactly.
Yeah.
Or you can come back and say, "Hey, you know what? We spent a ton of time and energy into figuring out how to clean these planes a bit better, and we're just the first amongst our competitors to figure out how to do so. And this is what
Yep.
we're doing to ensure your safety." You're kind of positioning it in a different way
Yep.
to show, "Hey, we've had a
Much different
breakthrough on
ethos.
cleanliness,
Yep.
and this is why we're going to open up." I mean, put the sense of security back in the consumer, and I think
Yep.
that's the white space. But I mean, we'll see how they roll it out.
100%. Yep.
Going on to our last story. So this is an interesting one. The IRS has come out and said that they are going to try and figure out how to get back $1.4 billion, billion with a B, in the stimulus. This is the private stimulus. You either get 1,200 as a single person or 2,400 as a couple. But they basically sent, was it 1.1 million deceased people the stimulus. So there's a bunch of people that are no longer with us, that are no longer living, that have received thousands of dollars in stimulus, and now it's, what do we do? I mean, 1.4 billion, that's a big number. I think there's a couple different takeaways from this. One, I mean, I'd be, is it going to be cost effective to even give it back, or just give it to their spouse or family members? I mean, there's a couple different ways, but there's also the, how could there be this amount of people? I mean, I've mentioned before, my wife, whenever we got married, it took her days to change her name in databases. You know, why isn't there an easy way just to update something and it goes to all federal databases that you know, lets us know? I mean, I think there's a couple different things that could help prevent this moving forward. But I mean, what are your thoughts on, you know, this many people, deceased people, receiving stimulus?
Well, Dustin, I think that the funny part of this story is that and there's murmurs of this, but we're supposed to be all giving our stimulus back, is what I've heard, and that that's going to come back out of your refund, and so you're not going to. This is just a cash injection that you're getting your tax refund fronted to you. So we'll see if that comes to fruition. But if that's the case, then it doesn't really matter, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you know, as you mentioned, how much money is going to go into bureaucracy to create departments to take this money back? Maybe not be $1 billion, but you're probably also not going to recover $1 billion. So do you want to spend more, or do you want to say, well, we screwed up? But I think the $1 billion could have gone to a lot of good things. And as you mentioned, when we're working off of computers that were made in the 70s and 80s, back when Billy G was just a young buck, I can't imagine that. It's you know, I just don't understand why the companies, these giant tech companies, aren't doing more to integrate with the government and the encryption that they have. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, it's your responsibility as a big $1 billion corporation to make the world a better place. I firmly believe that. And if you're in this country and you're based in this country, we obviously need help from a government standpoint with our infrastructure, not only from a systemized standpoint, but from a technological standpoint. And it's just, it frustrates me that, you know, it's kind of like, well, not our problem.
Yeah.
You know, I think there needs to be some more. But yeah, I mean, you know, I probably don't know the full story, but again, I'm frustrated by this.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to see, are they going to spend all the time and money trying to get it back? Or it's like, hey, you know what, let's cut our losses. At least people are still going to spend it if it going to their spouse. And should we spend the time and energy figuring out how to update our process and our systems so that this doesn't happen again? And so I bet you number one is going to happen, not the latter, but we'll see.
Well, if you're looking for a stimulus in your business, you should check out Advantage.com. Get $150 stimulus just for signing up. You can use that to trade excess capacity, anything that you got going on, whether you need a bookkeeper, an accountant, a financial planner. You can find them on Advantage.com, and you can book their time for $0. And so, yeah, definitely thank you guys for the support over there. Dustin, I thought these stories today were very interesting. I think it's my big thing that I took away from this one was Amazon's position, kind of very similar to Facebook in the sense that they're at a crossroads. Where are they going to say they're a platform or a publisher? And depending on that, I think there's going to be a lot to change.
Yeah, no, the one that I really love is just how many companies are pulling out of Facebook right now. Like I said, as a marketer, I'm excited. Lower cost of entry to reach people. You have less big brands that are creating noise. So I think there's a lot of different things that'll happen. Plus, I wonder if they're gonna redistribute those dollars to other channels and see success and realize that maybe social isn't the best channel to spend money on. So that's
Yeah,
that's
it'll be
that's what I
interesting to
love.
see. It'll be interesting to see. No, I appreciate you guys sticking with us till the end here. Again, you have been tuned in to the Non-Corporate Network. This is Entreprenews, content made by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs. If you have a show that you want to bring to life and you're like, well, I don't have a camera and I don't have this or that or the other, stop making excuses. jump over to ncnbroadcast.com and you can start your show today. We want to help you out. And if you're a sponsor, you want to tap into our audience of entrepreneurs, we'd love to work with you. Reach out to us again, NCN Broadcast. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram. Dustin, do you have anything else you want to add before we get out of here today?
No. I think you touched all bases. I mean, I said at the very beginning, NCN Network, we're just trying to pass business knowledge and just build a better or stronger business community. So appreciate you tuning in, and don't hesitate to reach out if you have any ideas on a type of show that you want to run with. We're all about ideating ideas and getting it figured out. So bring it on over.
Let's make it happen. Once again, my name's Chaz Vandemotter.
Dustin Trout.
And we will see you on Wednesday and Friday, and then the next Monday, and then the Wednesday, and we're just going to keep doing it. And we know you guys are going to keep hustling as well. So get after it today, and we'll be back in 48 hours.